Good morning, Bridge Online. It is so good to be with you today. I'm Emily James, pastor of Connections, and here at the Bridge, connection and community are so important to us. That's why we have a Connections team ready in the live chat on all our streaming platforms to answer any questions that you might have during the service. So don't hesitate to ask those questions, share some comments, and if anything, drop a hello so we can know you're joining in with us. We're so excited about the worship and teaching coming your way this morning. So why don't you join us in worship right now? God, thank you that we can gather together even in our own homes, Father. And we just pray right now that you would meet each person as we enter into worship together. Amen.
To join the song sung long before our lives, to raise our voice along heaven and earth alike. We've seen your faithful hand, without end, a king who bled and died, a God who sacrificed, enthroned upon the praises of 1,000 generations. You are this life we lead, on through eternity, our endless praise we cry, Jesus be glorified. All through this life we you're worthy of our song today. Your love so great, Jesus, in all things. I've seen a glimpse of your heart, a billion years. Still I'll be singing. How can I praise you in the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. Creation calls all to the Savior. We are alive for your praise in earth and sky. No one is higher. You reign, our God of wonders, you reign. Our God of wonders, you reign. You are the Lord. You are the Lord Almighty, outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. You are the Lord. You are the Lord Almighty, outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. Who is like the Lord? Who is like our God? Not to us, but to your name we lift up all praise. Not to us, but to your name we lift up all praise. Not to us, but to your name we lift up all praise. Not to us, but to your name we lift up all praise. You are the Lord Almighty, outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. You are the Lord Almighty, outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Jesus, you came to my rescue, took my place upon that cross. You redeemed what I had lost. Now my whole world revolving around you. You're the center of my life. You're the treasure, you're the prize. All I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you, nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Follow you anywhere. Oh, follow you anywhere. Oh, wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me, all I want is you. All I want is you. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me, all I want is you. All I want is you. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me, all I want is you. All I want is you. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you, nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Follow you anywhere. Oh, follow you anywhere. Oh, follow you anywhere.
Every day we ask so many questions. What should I wear? What's the weather going to be like? How am I going to fit everything in? But then there are those bigger questions, like why am I here? Where am I heading? Is there more to life than this?
I had arrived at an answer to the most important issue that we humans ever deal with. Is there a God? And I had arrived there without ever really looking at the evidence. And I was supposed to be a scientist.
At 28, I had gotten many of the things that I thought I wanted. My girlfriend was on the cover of magazines, I had a Beamer, and I was so unhappy. It was a realization maybe that I would never find happiness where I was looking for it.
I think for so many years, I always just strived to be strong in myself. All I needed was me and my buddies and, we'd be like invincible. But the truth is, none of us are.
And I found purpose, I found meaning, I found hope. God took something so broken and made it a beautiful art piece.
Alpha is a place where you can be yourself. You can say what you think and challenge everything. No question is too complex or too simple. And what your point of view is as important as anyone else's.
We are going on a journey together, an adventure to explore the questions of life, faith, and meaning.
Hey, welcome again to The Bridge Online. We know it can be difficult to navigate next steps as you connect to church, and especially during this season when there isn't as much face-to-face connection opportunities. But here at The Bridge, we want to meet you where you're at in your journey and provide the right next steps for you. We're confident that we have a place for you to grow in your faith and relationships. We have a digital connection card in the description below that we'd love for you to fill out. It's your way of letting us know that you're here and saying hello, and we can stay connected with you. And guess what? If you fill out that form, we'll send you a special gift just for you. Or if you'd prefer, you can email us at hello@thebridgemarkham.com and let us know you're ready to connect. And another way to stay connected in your faith is to join Pastor Darius for our next Abide Worship Night online. These are nights for the whole family to worship and reflect during the week. And you can tune in one of three ways, either through our Facebook page, YouTube channel, or by visiting thebridgemarkham.com/abide. Mark your calendars, you don't want to miss it. We would also love to have you join us for 2 online experiences coming up soon. First, Discover the Bridge is a 1.5-hour orientation to who we are and why we do what we do at the Bridge. This is a great stepping stone for getting connected here. This is a place to learn more, and it also connects you to others in the church. Provides an opportunity to continue your journey here at the Bridge. Our next one is happening on Sunday, September 27th. So head to thebridgemarkham.com/discoverthebridge to register. Now, if you're already connected to the Bridge and are looking for new ways to be all in through serving and giving of your time and talents, then Discover Your Purpose is the next step for you. This is a 90-minute investment of your time to discover what gifts God has gifted you with. This will help you find fulfillment as you step into serve and volunteer here at the Bridge. We have 2 opportunities for you to take part, Wednesday, October 14th or Sunday, October 18th. If that's you and you want to discover how God has created you, then we encourage you to register for one of the 2 dates. You can do that at thebridgemarkham.com/discoveryourpurpose. We want to make sure to give you an opportunity to give online today. You can click the link in the description for online giving, or you can email giving@thebridgemarkham.com. However you choose to give, thank you for partnering with us to do God's kingdom work here in Markham and around the world. Let's settle in now as Pastor Brian continues in our All In series with a message about the soul.
No holding back. No half measures. Let's build a faith that's all inclusive. Let's be all in.
Hey, welcome everyone. We began the new fall series last Sunday. The series is called All In. In this series, we're talking about the most important thing in the whole world. We're sitting at the feet of Jesus, and we're listening to him answering the question of an esteemed teacher of his day. The question asked was, Jesus, what is the most important command of God? What is the command or the direction from God that is above all others? This question that this religious and studious person is asking is an all-important question because he's asking to see into the very heart of God. He's asking to know his will, to know what makes God tick. What does God want above all other things when it comes to his relationship with we who are the created ones? And from Jesus, we get what we now call the Great Commandment, which we find in Matthew 22, verses 36 to 40. It says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. Now, we noted last week that there is a repeated word in the all-important command, and the word is all. We are called by Jesus to not only love God, but to love him with all our heart, our soul, our mind, and our strength. This is an all-in relationship that Jesus is taking us to. Jesus is telling us that the kingdom, the fullness of life, is to be found in an unreserved commitment to God, one in which nothing is held back. To be all in is to give yourself over without reserve. God's heart throbs for you. He longs to experience a relationship with you where he holds nothing back from you, and you hold nothing back from him. There is a verse in the Bible that reveals the all-in nature of God. It is John 3:16, where Jesus tells us how much God loves us. He says, God loved the world so much that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever would believe in him will not perish, but have everlasting life. God loved the world so much that he gave the world the very core of his heart, that being his Son, Jesus. Last week, we learned of the all-in commitment of God through Jesus, telling us a story, the story of the great banquet. And the gist of the story is that God invites us into his love feast where the fullness of who he is being offered unreservedly to us. And he sends out his Son, Jesus, to call people to come to the table and enjoy this feast. And as Jesus does this, he finds that people are not so ready to come, because in coming to the table, they were going to have to leave behind a myriad of other interests. Love interests, like their love for their property, or their love for their power, or their love for a partner, a mate, or a spouse. And so Jesus illustrates that while the fullness of life can be found in none other than an all-in relationship with his Father, many have settled for something less. To conclude our review of last week, we said that the heart of God throbs to have you taste and see just how good he is to those who take refuge in him. That idea of taking refuge in him refers to you taking what is your treasure, your heart, the thing you hold to highest value, and placing it into his care. And it's in that place that you have learned to trust, come what may. Now, that is how we love him with all of our heart. But today we're going to talk about what it means to love God with our whole soul, with all of our souls. How do you love the Lord your God with your soul? This is a huge question. We need to know the answer to this because it is one of the 4 things that Jesus said we need to do to love God completely. We love the Lord with all our soul by living a life of faithfulness to all that the Lord has required of us. While loving the Lord with all our heart has to do with affection, loving the Lord with all our soul has to do with devotion. The soul is the part of us that defines who we are, the essence of our biblical definition of the soul, it literally means personality, the inner self, our identity. It's where we make our decisions and our choices and ultimately decide our lifestyle and behavior. Think of the soul as the core you. To love the Lord your God with all your soul means to love him in the way in which we live, in the choices that we make, and in the behavior and the lifestyle that we adopt. One of the most telling passages of Scripture when it comes to the human soul is actually in the beginning of the Bible. In Genesis chapter 2, we read the mysterious account of God's creation of the first human, Adam. In verse 7, we're told, the Lord God formed the man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living soul. With the life of God's breath, Adam becomes living clay rather than ordinary clay. We see the opposite of this, of course, whenever we witness the body of a person who has died. For as you know, if you've ever seen a corpse, there's an emptiness there. The body remains, and yet it's just a shell. The essence of the person is gone. This body, which once was living clay, has now become, again, ordinary clay. Something has left, and that something is the soul. This gets, I think, very close to helping us understand the soul, the human soul, as God's word sees it. It's the very essence of a person. It is your life given to you by your Creator, breathed into you. And while your soul has something to do with your body, your feelings, your mind, your will, and your relationships, it also somehow, beyond all of those things, is not limited to any one of those things, and perhaps even greater than the sum total of all of those things. In a mysterious way, your soul is your very person, created and enlivened by God. When it comes to the life of a human soul, one of the main things we see in Scripture is that God has always intended that the human soul, each human soul, would come to dwell in a place of deep contentment in Him. We are meant to find our peace, our contentment, and our life's meaning in Him. Last week, I shared with you that Jesus has an uncanny way of telling stories that reveal to us where our hearts and our souls are located. Last week's story was of the great banquet that God invites us to, but we were too busy with unimportant things to actually attend His love feast. This week's story comes to us from Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 through 19. Let's just read the text together. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, "Abraham." And Abraham said, "Here I am." And then God told him, or said to him, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on the mountain that I will show you." Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey, and he took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. And when he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey while myself and the boy go on over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you." Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, "Father?" "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "The fire and the wood are here. But where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." And the 2 of them went on together. When they reached the place that God had told him about, Abraham built an altar, and there had arranged the wood upon that altar. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand, took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham!" "Here I am," Abraham replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and he took the ram and he sanctified it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the place there, "The Lord will provide." And to this day it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed me." Well, this is one of the most uncomfortable stories in all of Scripture. There's a tremendous tension because how could a loving God even suggest what he was commanding of Abraham? But I have found that it is in the stories that contain tension that we often have the greatest revelations, and God is trying to reveal something to us therein. So I think it is important to wrestle with stories like this. So God gives Abraham a test. Now Abraham, according to Jewish tradition, took 10 different tests, and this is the final one. This is sort of the ultimate test, if you will, to determine whether or not Abraham was all in. I have found that there are moments when God will test us and will determine whether or not we love him with all our hearts, souls, minds, and or strength. By the way, the test is not coming from a God whose heart is insecure as to whether or not we truly love him or not. No. God is not needy in his love. He's perfect and he is full and he is complete in himself. No, the test is for you and I to locate where our hearts are, where our soul is, where our mind is, and where our strength is being spent. God's tests are for helping us to see whether we're all in or not. And if not, to waste no time in repositioning our hearts, our souls, our minds, and our strength so as to take full advantage of God's love. We can see in life's test whether God has been displaced by someone or something. In this case, I think God wanted to see if the gift that he had given to Abraham, namely Isaac, had somehow displaced or relocated the love that Abraham had for God. But if we are careful, the gifts that God gives us can become idols. What is an idol? An idol is something that we put our trust in over and above God. The blessings that God gives us can become more important than the God who gave them to us in the first place. God blesses you financially with resources and with money and wealth. And I believe that what ends up happening is the blessing from God, if we're not careful, actually becomes a blessing that displaces God and becomes more important than God himself. God blesses you with a job, and he is the one who has given you the skills and the abilities, and he's the one who has opened the door that the job might be the gift from God. But if you aren't careful, that gift can become an idol. It can become more important to you than God himself. God blesses you with a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife, and you are all excited about that. But if you aren't careful, that relationship can displace your relationship with God. And in that moment, the gift becomes an idol, something other than God that you are actually giving your soul and your heart to. So this is the ultimate all-in test. Friends, if we're not careful, we can find ourselves in an inverted relationship with God. When I was 8 years old, I had put my faith in Jesus. But if I'm being honest, it really wasn't about me following Jesus. It was more about Jesus following me. I wanted him to follow me wherever I went. Would you please follow me onto the ball diamond and bless me and help me hit the ball farther and help me to catch and throw better? Would you please, Jesus, follow me into the classroom and help me on this test that I haven't even studied for? It wasn't about God's purposes. It was more about God serving my purposes. It wasn't about God's agenda for me. But here's the thing. It was such a subtle selfishness. It was all about my agenda for God. I wanted the God of the universe to revolve around me. Now, I've got to ask you a question. Are you following Jesus, or is Jesus following you? I think that's the difference between being all in or holding something back from God. It's here where we can locate our hearts, where we can locate our soul. Now, why is it that sometimes we're not willing to go all in? Why is it that we aren't willing to put things on the altar, so to speak? I think one of the reasons is because we're scared. Going all in is saying to God, I'm willing to go wherever you want me to go and do whatever you want me to do. That's scary because there's a part of us that thinks God is going to tell us to go somewhere we don't want to go, to do something we don't want to do. I think that there is a fear that somehow our lives are going to be the opposite of what we had dreamed for or what we had hoped for. You know what? It's going to take some sacrifice and some risks. And I'm not going to tell you that God isn't going to take you to some places in the world where you may not want to go. I just don't believe that at the end of the day, God is about making your life miserable. In fact, I subscribe to what Frederick Beutner has to say on this. He says this has to be taken within the context of if you're living within the guardrails of God's good and pleasing and perfect will, then here is what I believe. The voice we should listen to most as we choose a vocation is the voice we think that we should listen to the least. It's the voice of our gladness. What can we do that makes you the gladdest? I believe if it's a thing that makes us truly glad, then it's a good thing. Beutner said that you need to find the place where your deep gladness meets the world's deep need. I love that. Now, let's get back to Abraham. He gets up early and he saddles the donkey and they head off. For what it's worth, according to Jewish tradition, the reason he got up early is he wanted to get up and leave before Sarah woke up. We read these stories and we don't even think about the dynamics. But I'm thinking that if I came to Deb and I said to her, look, the Lord has called me to sacrifice one of the children, she might have a few questions. Let's just say that we've had arguments over lesser significant things than what's happening in this story. You want to know who else is overlooked in this story? Isaac. He is seen as a passive player in this story. But that changes when you understand that most scholars believe that he was 25 years old. Some suggested even the age of 37 when this was going on. What that tells me is this: his dad is a centenarian. So who's going to take who if it comes down to it? Abraham had long since ceased to be the wrestling champion of the Abraham family. According to Jewish tradition, Isaac submitted to the sacrifice. In fact, listen to this. It's believed that he said to his father, "Father, bind my hands and bind my feet, for the urge to live is so willful that when I see the knife coming at me, I may flinch involuntarily. I beg you to bind me." This isn't just a story about Abraham going all in. It's a story about Sarah going all in, and it's a story about Isaac going all in. We come to the moment when he reaches out his hand and he takes the knife to slay his son. And this is the moment when, if you're seeing it in a movie theater, you avert with your eyes. You don't want to see it, and you hope that they don't actually film this moment. They can't film this moment. You can't imagine this moment. But as Abraham raises the knife, God steps in. Do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God because you have not withheld from me your son, your very own son. Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw the ram caught by its horn, and He went over and he took the ram and he sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the place, "The Lord will provide." So God reveals himself as Yahweh, or Jehovah Jireh, the God who provides. But beyond that, it means the God literally who foresees. Provision is an act of foresight. It's anticipated. And it's anticipating a need that will exist and meeting that need before it even happens. Long before God laid the earth's foundations, he had us in mind. Long, long ago, he decided to adopt us into his family. He thought of everything, provided for everything that we could possibly need. A soul properly positioned in an all-out love for God knows this, trusts in this, and lives out of this. And this is what it means to love God with all your soul. I remember a few years ago, I was reading about C.J. Tan, the guy who led the IBM team that created Deep Blue, the computer that outmaneuvered chess champion Garry Kasparov. And it defeated him. And Deep Blue incorporated 32 processing engines that could contemplate 200 million chess moves every second. Now, I have a hard time with simple in-the-moment questions like yes, no, true, false, right or left, vanilla or chocolate. I can't even begin to comprehend 32 processing engines that can contemplate 200 contingencies every second. Yet that is laughable to an omniscient God who before creation of the universe understood every contingency that would ever exist. Every need that we would ever have was not just anticipated and foreseen, but provided for by God himself. If you understand that, then you are willing to go all in with God because you know that God has already made provision. You see, we miss the language in this story. Abraham knows that God is going to provide. Do you remember when he says that we will go and worship and we will come back? He knows that they're coming back. He knows that God will provide. I don't understand it, but I'm here believing that somehow, some way, God is going to provide. Why did God wait until the downward motion of Abraham's arm had begun? Because he wants to test us and help us see the degree to which we love God, the degree to which we trust God, the degree to which we have gone all in with God. Now, I want to tell you what I've discovered. It is not always that God wants to take those things away, but are you willing to give them up? That's the issue. I've found that sometimes I have to die to certain things. I have to put certain things on the altar and die to them for God to give them back to me. Do you realize that we are children of Abraham? Have you connected that dot as I've been sharing and talking today? I think sometimes we fail to do that. If your faith is in Christ, then you have been grafted into the family of Abraham. He's your father. We have a family ethic. It's an ethic of trust. The blessings that you enjoy as a child of God trace back to a moment, once again, where someone was willing to go all in. You see, you never know how your step of faith is going to affect the people around you. It's not just about you. It's about how your life can influence others around you for the redemptive purposes of God. And when you go all in, you never know how God is going to use your act of obedience. God says that you have not withheld. In other words, you are not holding out and you are not holding back. Is there something that you are holding back? Is there something that has become more important to you than God himself? And would you have the courage to put that thing on the very altar of your life? Some of you are wondering why you're not feeling the fullness of God's grace, or why have I not experienced God's power working through me the way that I read about in Scripture? I think one of the reasons is that we are holding back. Then you do not allow yourself to be in the full conduit of God's grace and power. And the things that he wants to do in you and through you, he can't do because you're not fully on the altar. You haven't placed yourself in that place where you're willing to give God everything and anything. This is what it means to love God with all your soul. So here's how I want to close. This little thought. We read this story, and here's the great irony. We can't imagine how God would even propose this kind of scenario. How could God even think up this kind of sacrifice? Then we remember in Scripture where someone else gave their only son, and yet we read this and we never even see what was revealed. But here's the deal. All the other religions are about what we can do for God. But that isn't what Christianity is about. It's about what God has done for you in the person of his Son, Jesus Christ. Christianity is not about what you can do for God. It's about what he has already done for you. For God so loved the world that he gave us his only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish, but have everlasting life. God has gone all in for you so that you can enter into an all-in relationship with him. He passes the test in that there is nothing that he would withhold. His love is properly located in its proper location at our heart's door. Will you bring it all? And will you trust him in this relationship to the degree that your person, your identity, your choices, your life are all rooted and all sourced in no one else other than God? God bless you.
What a great second week in our new sermon series. Lots to take in to both encourage and challenge us as we step into our week. I know so many of us are engaging our faith in new ways this season, and as a church, we want to be with you and provide resources that can help you on your journey. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on our social. Or visit us at thebridgemarkham.com to stay engaged with all of our ministries so you can stay engaged in your faith. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you online again real soon.